In the box you get a soft case which is slightly padded, you get the flash gun itself, and you get a small little foot stand which you can use to stand the flash gun on. Now the upgrades between the Di866 Mark II and the Mark I version are that the Mark II version has a metal hot shoe foot, so it should improve the durability. This is a bit of a double-edged sword because of course now it means you may break your camera hot shoe rather than just breaking the flash gun hot shoe. But all in all, most of the camera manufacturers and flash manufacturers now use metal shoes, so this is going along with the normal trend. Also advertised with this Mark II version of the flash, there is a much quieter zooming mechanism. The zoom transmission has been modified. I've never used a Mark I version, so I can't tell you whether the Mark II version is any quieter. What I can say is it is quite quiet. You hardly notice it zooming at all. The third advertised benefit of the Mark II version is an improved wireless sensor up here underneath the Nissin logo. Again, not used the Mark I version, but all I can say is that wirelessly the Mark II version does detect the master flash very easily, even around corners, under tables, and when it's out of the direct line of sight. On the rear of the Di866 Mark II, you can see you've got a small postage stamp sized colour screen. You've got a set button along with a 4-way controller, a pilot light and an on-off button. Now if you turn the flash on, first of all you would come up with the 6 icons of the main screen. You've got the auto, TTL mode, you've got a manual mode, you've got the strobe mode, you've got the interesting wireless mode that works very well with the Canon EOS 60D and 7D. And you can set the flash as either master or remote. The flash gun comes with a cartridge type battery magazine. The flash gun comes with a cartridge type battery magazine here, and Nissin make a big play on the fact that you put in the 4 batteries all the same way round, so you don't have to put them in alternate directions, and then the cartridge slides into the side of the flash gun. Whether that's of benefit to you or not is down to personal preference, but I don't find it that difficult trying to remember to put batteries at different orientations into the side of the flash gun. On the opposite side of the flash gun to the battery cover, you will find a cover over the top of the auxiliary ports on here. You've got a PC sync socket, a mini USB for downloading or uploading firmware updates, and you've got a socket for an external power. I'll talk about that in a moment. One of the neat features of this flash for me is its high speed mode, where you can flash sync up to an 8,000th of a second. This is by virtue of the fact that the flash at full power will output its flash for around a 200th of a second. So by a careful liaison between the flash and the camera, the flash can be fired and then the shutter fires while the flash is already operating. In that way you can actually get excellent high speed photos of things like water drops or sports. Another great feature of this flash is the wireless TTL mode. It is fully compatible with the Canon E-TTL Mark II mode for on-camera flash, and is also completely compatible with the EOS 60D and 7D in wireless slave or wireless remote mode. This means that you can communicate with and control this flash gun with either the hot shoe mount or with the pre-flashes from the internal flash on the cameras. The flash additionally has a strobe mode, which is going to be great for strobists amongst you. This mode allows you to set a frequency and a power level for the flashes from the flash gun, and you can do things like stop a ball in flight, or as you drop a ball, see the way that it's accelerating through time as the flash fires consecutively. Okay, next up we've got TTL mode, which is a mode that most people will use most of the time. This is the mode where the camera itself will control the flash output. However, you do have a number of overrides which can be used to change the effect or the impact of the flash. So the main screen here in TTL mode allows you to change the exposure compensation. And what you can do here is, by balancing the flash exposure and the exposure compensation, you can balance ambient versus flash light. So for instance, with the flash set at 0, you will get an even mix of flash and ambient light. If you want a less harsh flash, you can dial in some negative exposure compensation for the flash and dial in an equal amount of positive exposure compensation on the camera, and that will balance out or increase the exposure of the ambient light and decrease the exposure of the flash to still maintain an evenly lit shot, but with a less harsh flash. These settings can also be set within the camera, although the flash on the flash itself, it's often much easier to make the changes. If you hold the set button in TTL mode for 2 seconds, you reach the advanced TTL setting menu. One point of note is that the flash exposure compensation, which you can dial in on the back of the flash, acts in addition to any compensation which you have set within the camera. What this means is, if you set -3 EV compensation on the flash gun itself, and then you dial in -3 EV on the camera, you will actually get -6 EV on the flash. So when you are trying to work out the balance between ambient and flash light, you need to take into account both the settings on the flash gun and those in the camera itself. Right, I've got a fresh set of rechargeable batteries in the flash here, and I've set it to manual mode, and I've set it to full power. Now if I push the pilot light button now, it'll discharge the flash. And now we can count while it recharges. You can see the pilot light is flashing red until it recharges. I'll do that once more. So that was about 6.5 to 7 seconds to recharge. What I will now do is add the external battery pack, and you'll see the difference in the recharge times. The battery pack that I'm using is a Shoot compact battery pack EP-N4. This is a very inexpensive eBay bought battery pack. It takes 8 rechargeable batteries and attaches to the external power port on the side of the Nissin Di866 Mark II. One complaint I have is that, as you can see, the right angled plug on the battery pack heads out forwards rather than backwards, and I'd much rather it headed out backwards. Battery pack, for its cheap price, is relatively robust, but I don't think it's going to hold up with being dropped too often. And it comes with a tripod mount, so you can put a tripod attached through this hole, the battery pack, to the top of a tripod to secure it. If I now discharge the flash at full power, you'll see how long it takes to recharge. Yeah, that's about 2.5 seconds versus 6.5 seconds with the internal batteries. So as you can see, running the external battery pack, although it does increase the size of the flash, and it can be a bit of a pain to carry it around with you, it does significantly increase the rate at which the flash will recharge. And the battery pack does come with a small wallet which you can attach to your belt, and then keep the battery pack in that. Okay, here we are with the flash mounted on the camera in standard TTL mode with no exposure compensation built in. just take the picture. As you can see, there's a reasonably exposed picture there with the window behind blown out as the highlights. What I'll then do is wind up the exposure compensation to give us, so you can see it, +3. Do the same thing again, take the picture, and there you can see that now it's blown out a lot more of the highlights. And equally, if I wind the exposure compensation all the way down the other way, it's quite underexposed, although the window behind is still blown out. So what I can do now is adjust the dial to shutter priority, and I can then adjust the shutter speed all the way up, because we're in high speed mode. You see the little H has appeared next to the lightning bolt of the flash there. You see it? It's off now at 2/50th, which is standard. And then going above that, I can go all the way up if I want to an 8,000th of a second. Now the flash gives you somewhere between 6.5 and 7 stops of light, which means that if you've got a shutter speed naturally of a 60th of a second, you can just about get away somewhere between 6,000ths and 8,000ths of a second. So now I will take the photo. As you can see, there's a fairly well exposed shot there, despite the fact that I'm set at 8,000ths of a second. You can see the live view mode there is very, very dark, but the flash has provided sufficient light to fill in for those 6.5, 7 stops of underexposure. Obviously it's not necessary to go all the way up to 8,000ths of a second and 6.5 to 7 stops. You can wind yourself back if you want to and just go for 1,000ths of a second. Take the photo. Again, there is a reasonably exposed photograph.